We are back, and you're listening to the Critical Hour on Radio Sputnik. I'm your host, Dr. Wilmer Leon. I'm here with my co-host, Garland Nixon.
Thank you, Wilmer. Ready to roll.
So the Republicans, they are deeply, deeply divided on this virus aid. Near agreement on an opening offer, one can only wonder. There are great levels of consternation within the Republican Party. The Tea Party conservatives, they are apocalyptic about its $1 trillion cost. Mainstream Republicans that are in very tight races, they're desperate to act quickly and aggressively to show their voters that they're trying to do something, not only about this virus, but about the economy as well. All of this while the president continues to insist on senseless proposals like a payroll tax cut that is no more than the voodoo economics that George H.W. Bush warned us about when he was running against Ronald Reagan. Anyway, that's not going to stimulate anything but the pockets of the 1%. So how do we square this circle? Well, for insight, we turn to our next guest. He's a frequent collaborator with all major news outlets and author of City Builders and Vandals in Our Age. He's Caleb Maupin. As always, Caleb, welcome back.
Sure. Glad to be here, as always.
This desperation exposes these deep divisions among Republicans and I believe Democrats as well over spending and policy. I say all the time that budgets are numeric representations of priorities. And we're seeing, I think, this thing play out right before our very eyes. We can always find the money to go to war. We can always find the money to interfere in the politics of sovereign countries, but provide for the health and welfare of American citizens? Oh, no, we're rugged individuals who subscribe to the Protestant work ethic. Help me out here, Caleb.
33 million Americans are officially unemployed. Now, that's the official unemployment numbers. Now, we know about, people that are underemployed. We know about people that were never counted in that because they weren't employed before, technically, like students who are on the job market, people that maybe their benefits have run out, et cetera. So 33 million unemployed people in the United States right now. Plus, 2 days from now, the evictions ban is about to expire, meaning they can start throwing people out of their homes, right? Renters, people with mortgages, they can just start throwing them out of their homes. Okay, that's the situation. And Congress is sitting here going, oh, dear, should we do something about this? Oh, boy. Well, some of us say yes, some of us say no. We can't find an agreement. I mean, this is really revealing, as you said, the priorities of the American government. I'm sorry. Remember Donald Trump, he was for the working man, right? He was for the working class, the working people. He was going to turn the Republicans into the party of the working class. He was caring about average people against those elites that don't care about average people. Well, there's millions of average people who are being put to the edge right now, really worried about paying their bills, right? We know about that $600 unemployment, bonus that's been added to unemployment as a stimulus. The enhancement is on the verge of expiring as well. Millions of Americans are sitting there going, what's going to happen next? And the Republicans are giving us a lecture about hard work and, you're in it for yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And they're playing political games with the Democrats. And this is a mess. I mean, this is an absolute mess. And it should be a source of burning outrage for anyone paying attention to this who deeply cares about American families.
Well, Caleb, it's been a couple months ago now, but Jerome Powell, the chair of the Fed, went on national television. And when asked about, how they came up with all the money for the, multi-trillion-dollar bailout for the oligarchs, he said, well, we just moved a few decimal points over. Basically, we created the money. But here's what's interesting. He went on to say that he felt that the government should, in fact, give people money, should do some type of UBI. He recommended it to Congress and then said, look, you know what? The spigots are open for money. I'm paraphrasing now. But basically what he said was, if they tell us how much we want, we'll give it to them. So basically, we've got the Fed actually saying, yeah, they ought to give people money, some type of UBI. Just tell us what they need and we'll give it to them. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that's fiscally responsible or not. I'm not putting a judgment on it. I'm just saying Jerome Powell comes forward and says that. Now it gets to Congress, and Congress goes from unlimited money for the corporate oligarchs to, hey, wait a minute, the people are starving and, they need bread. Who's going to pay for that? So what do you think about that odd contradiction of the Fed, of all of the, speaking of oligarchs, of the Fed saying, give the people money, and Congress saying, nah, we can't give the people money. They'll be fine. Let them, they're tough. They can handle it. Caleb.
Well, I got to wonder how Donald Trump personally feels about this, because where did all of his millions of dollars come from? Now, we know he may not be as rich as he claims to be, but regardless, where did that money come from? It came from the housing market. And what's going to happen when people can't pay their mortgages, when renters can't pay their rent, when there's evictions all over the country? The housing market is going to crash. I mean, it's going to crash. And in places like New York City, where we're already seeing the population kind of leaving, basically, because there's nothing to do in New York City amid a pandemic, right? All the things that attract you here, like Broadway plays and, late night restaurants and nightclubs and all that, are all still not functioning. So we're on the brink, basically, of seeing, the housing market collapse. All kinds of people are going to lose their homes pretty soon if something's not done. The price of homes all across the country is going to plummet, most especially in the urban centers where we've been seeing that revival with gentrification. I mean, this is going to have ripples all throughout the economy. And that's what I feel like these, supply side economists, they just don't understand this, right? That if you cut people's wages, they can't afford to keep buying products, right? That if you throw people out of their homes, pretty soon there's going to be a bunch of homes on the market, and it's going to drive the price of housing way down, right? That when average people get screwed economically, it's bad for the entire economy. But these folks just don't seem to understand that. That doesn't fit their Ayn Rand survival of the fittest narrative, right? It's just take care of the rich and don't worry about working people, let them die, then they won't reproduce and have children, and that'll clean up the gene pool. I mean, it's this demented right-wing thinking that just doesn't understand the way the economy works, just basic Econ 101. It's very scary to watch.
How much of this do you see as being the fundamental guns or butter dichotomy? Because when we look at the Democrats right now, today, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they're acting as though they've got the Republicans by the short hairs on this one. But what we do know, lying right below the surface, is a problem that the Democrats have made, is they've made incredible concessions to the Republicans on the defense side of the ledger in order to continue funding on the social program side of the ledger. So it seems to me as though the Democrats are really only able to push this narrative, but so far, because they have made such concessions here that they don't really have a lot of ledge left upon which to stand.
Well, indeed. And you'll notice that Joe Biden is already running a warmongering campaign. He's got ads saying he'll be tougher on Russia. He's got ads comparing Donald Trump to Maduro and Fidel Castro. And, Biden is already running I'm more of a warmonger, I'm more warlike, I'm more aggressive against, anti-imperialist states. That's the kind of campaign the Democrats are already running. So, if they start talking about cutting the Pentagon budget or something, that's not going to fit their narrative. And that's going to put them in a weaker spot. It's a very, very, very bizarre situation. I think Donald Trump would really like to shift the conversation to I'm, getting the streets of Seattle in order or Portland in order. I'm getting the streets of Portland in order by sending in the feds to, beat up protesters. I'm a strong man. I'm bringing order back to the country. Donald Trump would like the conversation to go there, not on to the economy where people are really, really suffering right now. And furthermore, I think the Democrats would kind of like the conversation to go there as well, because we're going to see them concede and fall over and surrender like they've done so many times. And the Democrats seem to be all about symbolic victories, taking down statues, for example, making declarations, having ceremonies in the halls of Congress where they wear those African things, and they're trying to give every symbolic victory they can give to the far left. But when it comes down to it, when it's time for things to actually change, to actually make concrete changes that are going to actually resolve the problem, not just make people out protesting feel good, that's where they're getting nervous. They don't want to actually deliver the goods. The Democrats could really throw down over this. They are in the position here to really just expose the Republicans and just pummel them. I mean, think about it. I mean, if it's, vote for us and we'll extend your unemployment, vote for him and he'll kick you out of your house. most people are going to vote for the other side. I mean, it's pretty simple. But that would require the Democrats embracing some of that Bernie Sanders economic populism, and they are so scared to pull that trigger. They don't want to do what FDR did. FDR dared push that button when he was facing, opposition and the threat of a military coup. He pushed that button. He turned into a populist. He met with labor unionists at the White House. He met with communists and socialists at the White House. And he said, government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. And he went there. Roosevelt went there. And thank goodness, American history, our country, is so much better off because he did that. But the Democrats don't want to go there. They just don't want to go there.
Caleb, two things. Number one, I think, could we be looking at a return of the 1929 crash in this context? 29 was bad, but afterwards, the Hoover administration, an ideologically, right-wing group, decided that they were going to, balance the budget and tighten their belts and made things even worse. And it appears that that's what the Republican administration right now is planning on doing. And let me add this to piggyback off what you were saying right now. If Nancy Pelosi, if Biden, if the Democrats were to say, vote for us, give us both the House and the Senate, and we will do here's a number, $2,000 a month UBI for every family. This is over. If they do this right now, it's over for the Republicans in a blowout, but they won't do that because that's who they are. And so they're not different enough from the Republicans to really put themselves in a position to do what should be easy right now with the Trump administration, and that's blow them out. Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the situation. If we've learned anything since the 2008 financial crisis, but we should have learned it even earlier. We should have learned it throughout the 1990s with the economic reforms in the former Soviet Union or the economic reforms in Latin America, that you cannot cut your way into economic growth. It just doesn't work that way. This idea that you are going to vastly reduce government spending and then magically the economy will just blossom without, because people's taxes are lower or something. That's a fiction, and it's been tried. And they tried it in Eastern Europe, and it led to mass poverty and mass suffering and an epic disaster. I mean, the 1990s in Eastern Europe was a nightmare of neoliberal economic reforms. Jeffrey Sachs, George Soros, they presided over a disaster. They tried it in Latin America, starting with the Pinochet government in the 70s in Chile, but they tried it all over there, Bolivia, everywhere, Ecuador, all kinds of places they tried it. It doesn't work. And since the 2008 financial crisis, we've basically been trying that in the United States, right? We just cut our way into economic growth. We see Obama, being the first president to reduce food stamp benefits, and it hasn't worked. I mean, the economy has not gotten better because we cut, right? You cannot cut your way into economic growth. It just doesn't work that way. We're in a situation here where in order to keep people eating, to keep people from losing their homes. It's not a question of even getting the economy going again. I mean, it's just a question of, people's basic survival. The government needs to spend some money, not on tanks and bombs and planes to blow things up and kill people, not on a bailout for big corporations, but on average people so they can survive during this economic meltdown. In this moment, it's time to spend money, and we still can't get over this ideological belief that we have that you can magically cut your way into economic growth, and it just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work.
Caleb Maupin, as always, thank you so much for your time, so much for your analysis. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Sure.
And folks, you're listening to the Critical Hour on Radio Sputnik. I'm Wilmer Leon, joined by my co-host Garland Nixon. There's more on the other side. Stay tuned.